They came to say goodbye. It was a cold morning in Kalamazoo, Michigan, March 12, 2019. The chapel was silent. Emily Biernat's photo stood at the entrance, framed with white lilies, her son clinging to his grandmother's side. People cried, they prayed. Then the casket was wheeled in. But when the lid was lifted, Emily's body was gone. At first, there was confusion. Maybe the funeral staff made a mistake. Maybe the wrong body had been placed in the wrong coffin. But within seconds, it became clear. There was no body at all, just silk padding, an empty space where Emily Biernat should have been. What started as a funeral suddenly became the opening scene of an unsolved mystery, one that no one, not the morgue, not the funeral home, not even the police, has ever fully explained. Emily Biernat wasn't famous. She didn't have a wild past or a flashy lifestyle. She was 31, a single mother, quiet, lived in a small duplex near Kalamazoo's north side. She worked full-time at a local nursing home night shifts, mostly clocked in, clocked out, and went home to take care of her 6-year-old son, Aiden. Neighbors described her as polite but distant, the kind of woman who smiled at you in the parking lot but rarely made small talk. Co-workers said she was dependable, never missed a shift, never complained. But there were signs, small, subtle, that something in her life wasn't right. Her sister, Mallory, later told investigators that Emily had been acting strange in the weeks leading up to her death. She was locking her doors more obsessively, checking behind her car. She stopped posting on social media, entirely unusual for someone who once shared daily photos of her son. 2 weeks before her death, Emily filed a police report about a break-in at her home. Nothing was taken. No forced entry, just her bedroom drawers dumped out, her closet torn apart. She told police she thought someone had been looking for something. The case was marked non-priority. No arrests were made. 10 days later, she was found dead on her couch. Emily was found on the morning of March 2nd, 2019. A neighbor had knocked repeatedly. Emily hadn't shown up to take Aiden to school. No calls, no texts, no signs of life. When the landlord unlocked the front door, Emily was on the couch, still pale, her phone beside her. There were no signs of struggle, no blood, no pill bottles, just silence, like she had fallen asleep and never woke up. The coroner's report listed the cause of death as probable cardiac arrhythmia. In layman's terms, her heart stopped, but her family wasn't convinced. Emily had no history of heart problems, no drug use, no health red flags. Just the opposite. She was active, took care of her son, and had no prescription meds in her home. And the autopsy? It was brief, too brief. According to her sister Mallory, the entire procedure was closed within 48 hours. But what really raised eyebrows was what came next. No toxicology report was ever released. The coroner's assistant later told police she was instructed to finalize the report quickly. The medical examiner's office declined multiple follow-up calls from Emily's family. It was as if everyone just moved on, as if they wanted her gone officially, quietly, permanently. But death was only the beginning, because 10 days later, when the casket was opened, there was no Emily inside. Here's how it was supposed to happen. Emily's body was released from the Kalamazoo County morgue at 6:40 in the morning, 3 days before the funeral. The paperwork showed that a contracted transport service Greenbridge Mortuary Logistics signed for her release. The driver's name on the form, Stephen Holt, a familiar name in the area. He'd been moving bodies for over 12 years. From there, the body was supposed to be driven 14 miles north to Baxter Funeral Home, where she would be prepped for burial. That's the last time anyone can say they saw Emily. According to the funeral home, she never arrived. No signature, no intake report, no surveillance footage of the van entering the property. Nothing. And Stephen Holt, the driver, didn't show up to work the next day. When police finally reached him 2 days later, he said something that would only deepen the mystery. I dropped her off like I was told. She was in the van when I parked outside Baxter. I don't know what happened after that. But cell phone records showed Holt never got near Baxter Funeral Home. His van's GPS data stopped pinging near a gas station 10 miles away. Security footage at the morgue corrupted. Footage from the funeral home, system under maintenance. In less than 14 miles of open road, a woman's body vanished, and no one, not Holt, not the morgue, not Baxter Funeral Home, could explain how. March 12, 2019. A gray, bitter morning in Kalamazoo. The kind that settles heavy over a city. The kind of day you expect to cry. The Biernat family gathered early. Emily's mother, Patricia, sat in the front pew gripping a crumpled tissue. Her son, Aidan, 6 years old, held a toy car in one hand and stared blankly ahead. He didn't fully understand what was happening. He just knew his mom was supposed to be there in the casket. The organ played low. Friends and neighbors filed in. A soft hum of grief filled the room. The funeral director gave a small nod to the family. It was time. 2 staff members wheeled the casket forward. The lid was lifted. And then nothing. No body, just air, white padding, empty silk. At first there was silence, then murmurs, confused looks. Someone asked if this was a mistake. The director's face turned pale. He looked toward the back of the room, toward a staff member. Whispers started. Patricia Biernat stood up, shaky. She said Emily's name out loud, as if maybe she had somehow been placed in the wrong coffin. Maybe this wasn't real. The casket was empty. A few moments later, staff ushered the family out. A locked side room, phone calls, panic. The funeral director claimed the body had been delivered on time, but there was no record of it. No footage, no paperwork, no signature. What was meant to be closure had become a second cruel mystery. Emily Biernat was gone. Not missing, erased. The police were called immediately. By noon that same day, Kalamazoo PD had officers at both the funeral home and the morgue. What they found was confusion, or maybe something worse, coordinated silence. At the morgue, records showed Emily's body was signed out at 6:40 in the morning by Stephen Holt, the contracted transporter. His signature was on the log, standard process, but there was no internal surveillance footage to prove she ever left. The camera feed that normally faced the loading dock, offline for maintenance. At Baxter Funeral Home, the staff swore the body never arrived. No one recalled unloading it. No one checked the back room. The intake log was blank, and their camera feed, system update in progress. 2 different locations, 2 security systems, both down, same day, same 4-hour window. Stephen Holt, the driver, couldn't be reached that day. When police finally contacted him 48 hours later, he sounded rattled, told them he did the drop like always and assumed someone from Baxter logged it. But when pressed for more details, he shut down. Here's what the police discovered. His phone pinged near a truck stop 10 miles from the funeral home. He never texted or called anyone at Baxter that morning. And his transport van? It wasn't checked until 3 days later. When officers searched it, it had already been cleaned. No trace of DNA, no fingerprints, nothing. And then came the weirdest part. Holt never returned to work. He resigned via email a week later. One sentence, no apology, no forwarding address, and disappeared. 2 weeks after Emily's funeral collapsed into chaos, a quiet phone call came in to the Kalamazoo Police Department. It was from a man named Derek Malloy, a part-time technician at a private crematorium about 20 miles outside the city. He didn't want to go on record at first. He just wanted to clear his conscience. Malloy claimed that 10 days before Emily's funeral, a man came to the crematorium with an unusual request. No funeral arrangements, no family present, just a black body bag in the back of a nondescript white cargo van. He said it was a rush job, that the family wanted it done quietly, Malloy told detectives. He was offered $1,000 cash up front to cremate the body without paperwork. No death certificate, no funeral home contract, nothing official. Malloy refused. The man got agitated, said he'd find someone else, then left. Police asked for a description. Malloy wasn't sure of the name, but he remembered one detail. He had a patch on his jacket, looked like a delivery company, Green something. Greenbridge Mortuary Logistics, the same company that was supposed to deliver Emily's body. Malloy's tip didn't make the news. The investigation was kept quiet, but internally something shifted. Detectives began building a theory they weren't ready to admit out loud. What if Emily Biernat was never meant to make it to the funeral home at all? What if someone made her disappear? The pieces started falling into place when police re-examined Emily's old phone records, especially the ones from the final weeks of her life. Among the usual names, family, co-workers, a few contacts from the school, one name came up multiple times. Daniel Kessler. She had called him 4 times in the week before her death. He never called back. At first, the name didn't mean much, but then detectives cross-checked it against Greenbridge Mortuary Logistics. Daniel Kessler was listed as a regional manager. And 3 years ago, he wasn't just some name in a directory. He was Emily's ex-boyfriend. They had dated briefly in 2016. Emily had ended the relationship after what her sister described as serious boundary issues. He would show up at her job, follow her after night shifts. She never reported him formally, but family said she was afraid of him. After the breakup, he stopped contacting her until February 2019. Just 2 weeks before she died, Emily told her sister, "He's back." She didn't explain more, just said he was in her orbit again. Police brought Kessler in for questioning. He denied everything, claimed he hadn't spoken to Emily in years, said the calls were a mistake. He had an alibi for the day of the body transport, but it was shaky. At home, working remotely. When detectives asked him to take a polygraph, he refused. Cited legal advice, no charges, no confession, no trace. But here's what stuck. The man who once made Emily afraid was now working for the company that signed out her body. Coincidence or something much worse? After months of interviews, tips, and dead ends, the investigation stalled. The crematorium lead, unverifiable. The driver, Stephen Holt, never formally charged. Daniel Kessler, never named a suspect. The Kalamazoo police quietly closed the case, citing insufficient evidence to suggest criminal wrongdoing. Emily's disappearance was reclassified as a procedural anomaly, but to her family, it was anything but a glitch. Her mother, Patricia, started writing to lawmakers, reporters, advocacy groups. She paid for an independent investigator, but he hit the same wall. No records, no security footage, and no one, not a single employee, ever admitted to seeing Emily's body again after it left the morgue. There was no funeral, no grave. Her son Aiden never got to say goodbye. You can't heal when there's nothing to bury, Patricia told a local newspaper. How do you mourn someone who just disappears? Years passed. Emily's name faded from headlines, but not from memory. In the state of Michigan, she is still legally deceased, but her body was never recovered, never cremated, never accounted for, just gone. And with no physical evidence, no camera footage, and no witnesses willing to talk, there was nothing left to investigate. Nothing except a haunting question. Where did Emily Biernat go? Was it a mistake? A tragic mix-up between two overwhelmed facilities? Was Emily's body lost in a bureaucratic failure and quietly covered up to protect reputations? Or was it something darker? Some believe the truth lies in that van, in the missing 14-mile window between the morgue and the funeral home. That's where everything stops making sense. Others point to the crematorium whistleblower and the man with no name offering cash for a body burned without a trace. And then there's Daniel Kessler, the ex-boyfriend who resurfaced, the man with access, with motive, with silence. But in the end, the theories don't matter because the outcome is the same. A young mother died suddenly. Her family was denied closure. Her child never got to say goodbye. And the one thing everyone counted on the body never arrived. Emily Biernat is gone, not lost, not misplaced, erased. So the question remains, what happened between the morgue and the casket? And more importantly, why won't anyone answer?